Mike and I planned to each write something and then to combine our statements into one, and we found that combining was difficult, but that our conclusions were the same. Yes, becoming an ONA church has been a yes situation for this period of time. Mike and I were co-moderators during the time CCSM was looking seriously into becoming an ONA church. The congregation voted overwhelmingly to do so. We fully supported it, but had no idea what a profound impact it would have on CCSM. We had begun a journey that opened doors to new opportunities for mission, ministry, and friendships. As an ONA church, we seek to publicly welcome all people without regard to sexual orientation or any other supposed difference. Being an ONA church has helped bolster our courage to speak out and stand up for what we believe is right. It has been a growing experience as we build on relationships and renew our commitment to the deeper truths of our Christian faith. Being an ONA church has helped us proclaim who we are. Take a look at the banners out on Tilton and San Mateo Drive for examples of letting the world know where we stand. Our recent very favorable vote to become a sanctuary church shows that we're willing to take a strong stand and move into action. Yes, becoming an ONA church has helped pave the way for us to speak out even louder for justice.
Thanks, Lee. When the decision was made to become an ONA church, Lee and I were co-moderators. Though we weren't part of the team that carefully led our church members step by step through this process, we were ardent supporters of the idea. Then reality hit when the Reverend Penny Nixon arrived a few years later, a direct result of our earlier ONA decision. What is this, I thought? We now have a gay senior minister who is female? The traditional part of my mind was absolutely flabbergasted for all of about 3 days. Since she arrived nearly 10 years ago at CCSM, our faith environment has become extravagantly welcoming. We are more diverse, more dedicated to social justice issues and action than ever before, and we are focused both on our beloved community and the community and world all around us. That ONA decision 15 years back was made by members of our church faithfully looking to the future of God's community in this place. That decision has led us into following Jesus' commandment to love our neighbor. And we are continuing to learn that our neighbor is anyone and everyone. I believe that ONA was a large and grace-filled step in this blessed direction. Thank you.
It's my privilege today to share words from Valerie Duker, who could not be here today because she is recovering from heart surgery. That surgery went well, but she's not yet well enough to be here to share these words, so I am blessed to be able to share them for her today. My highest ideal for a church is to embrace Jesus' welcome to all people as beloved children of God. So as a ministry intern at CCSM in 2001 to 2002, I eagerly staffed the Open and Affirming task force. 10 years earlier, CCSM had rejected becoming an O&A congregation. But by 2001, many felt that the congregation was already O&A. So it needed to declare itself as such. The process went well, with the congregation engaged in many caring, heated, painful, and ultimately revelatory discussions. A big concern after the O&A vote was how the congregation would live into its welcoming declaration. Fast forward 15 years. During the intervening years, I pastored congregations along the O&A spectrum. With health issues derailing my congregational ministry, this picky, progressive minister and preacher's kid decided to find a truly welcoming, progressive congregation where I could find common spiritual ground. Returning to CCSM last fall, I felt blessed to find a Christian community honestly wrestling with shocking political upheavals and resulting societal challenges. This congregation has become active in a wide range of justice issues, as well as offering spiritual challenge, welcome, and solace. Not only was O&A embedded in leadership and congregants, but CCSM folks easily adopted a sanctuary church resolution. One could say that CCSM has embraced its O&A declaration of 15 years ago, as evidenced by our lesbian senior minister. Yet it's more than that. In terms of welcoming all, Penny knows what it feels like to be dismissed for who she is, at her core, and then to persevere with faith to make others feel welcomed wherever they are on life's journey. At CCSM, I see many people who are committed to follow Jesus on this most challenging journey of all, to welcome all God's beloved along the full range of humanity.
Good morning. My name is Dave Olson, and I was on the original O&A task force. And I know from the prior comments and by the bright colors in the bulletin that this is supposed to be a celebration today. And I definitely believe there's a lot to celebrate. In terms of LGBTQ issues, this has been quite a 15 years. As many of you know, I helped to teach our mid-high Sunday school class. And over the years, I've taught a number of kids who've had two dads or two moms. I saw Mercy and Jacob earlier today. I wouldn't be surprised if Calvin arrived after I had sat down. And these are terrific kids. And getting to spend some time with them and getting to know them a little bit has been a fantastic experience for me. To the extent that being an O&A congregation made the difference in bringing them to our church, I'd count myself as somebody who's directly benefited from our O&A experience. So I wanted to start by saying thank you. When I was asked to join the O&A task force, I remember thinking we were already pretty far along. I was obviously wrong about that in a number of ways. But I knew that my friend Mark had an easier time being out and proud than my older work colleague, and that my friend at work was more comfortable being herself than did my Uncle Gene. life was certainly different in 1930s rural Minnesota for a gay man. I was pretty confident that the church would vote overwhelmingly in favor of the O&A proposition. I was surprised to hear that it had been voted down 10 years ago. But as far as we've come, I think I appreciate more today that we still have got a long way to go. And I appreciate more today the way these issues and others affect real individuals. One story that I wanted to share this morning is about a guy I met on the O&A committee who stopped coming to church. I don't really remember. It was either during the O&A process or shortly thereafter. His name was Mark. He was a very outspoken person. He was very pro-gay. And would often challenge us on the committee. I remember Mark saying, "This church is fine with me, but what happens when I bring my friends who are a little more flamboyant than I am?" And I remember him saying, "I don't know that I like being part of an organization that feels like it has to take a vote to see whether they're open and accepting of me, how I am." And I knew he was right when he said those things. But I remember not really knowing what to do about it. And I don't know today. One of the things I love about this church is that it encourages people to get involved and to value relationship and to be open to other people and other perspectives. And I have faith in those things and in their power to change the world. I really do. But I'm also very aware that they can be hard to do and they don't solve every problem. And I know that those things alone don't always allow us to make the difference that we really need to make at the time that we really need to make it. So I recognize that we've come a long way in the past 15 years, and that's great. I'm hoping that they'll have some cake to celebrate in Kloss Hall after the service. But I'm also definitely a vote for keep on growing.
Hear the words from the Gospel of Mark. They came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village, and when he had put saliva on his eyes and laid his hands on him, he asked him, "Can you see anything?" And the man looked up and said, "I can see people, but they look like trees walking." Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he looked intently, and his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Then he sent him away to his home, saying, "Do not even go into the village." I'm going to give a brief reflection on these words today from the table, because this embodies everything about being open and affirming and welcoming. Our celebration today, as you have heard, is not to pat ourselves on the back necessarily, but to recognize how doing the right thing transforms us in ways that we might never have imagined before. In the scripture we just read about the man being healed, that scripture is found only in the Gospel of Mark. So when that happens, it's particularly important to pay attention to it. On a first read, on a first hearing, it may seem that Jesus' healing powers are somehow compromised. like Superman if he got too close to kryptonite. His powers were weakened. I suspect this is the reason why this story is not found in our lectionary. The lectionary, if you don't know, is that 3-year cycle of readings that mainline Protestant churches use. Whoever put the lectionary together many, many years ago might not have wanted this story included. But I think if we look a little more closely, this reading is less about Jesus and more about the man's response to his eyes being opened. Now, the spiritual wisdom in this story is not about physical blindness. It's not about being sight impaired. There was a time in my life when 3 of my very close friends all happened to be blind, and 2 of them have since passed on. But they were people who could see far more clearly than most of the sighted people in my life. Gary, in the mid-'80s, I would call him when I couldn't figure out how to use my new computer, and he would walk me through it, and he would say, now you should see on the screen this. And I'm thinking, how do you know that? And then there was Solomon, my Ethiopian friend who was a student at Columbia Law. He could tell who I was by just taking my hand and sensing my energy, even if there were hundreds of other people in the room and I hadn't even spoken aloud yet. Gary, Shelley, Solomon, they saw deeply what mattered most. Jesus takes the man outside the village for a moment of intimacy and connection, and he puts saliva on his eyes. Now, it may sound odd to us, saliva, but saliva was known then and now to have many healing properties. And he asks the man, can you see anything, after he touches him first? I don't remember Jesus ever asking somebody after he healed them, how do you feel now? The man said, I see people, but they look like trees walking. Sometimes we see people as trees. Not literal trees, of course, but with the unconscious biases in our minds, we see certain people not as full people. They don't hurt the way we hurt. They don't love the way we love. After all, we know that in our own Constitution, until it was amended by the 13th Amendment, that African Americans were considered 3/5 of a person. It's in our Constitution. The Chinese workers who built the railroad weren't allowed to ride on it. Japanese Americans not allowed to stay in their homes during the war. Native Americans moved to reservations. We see this not only in our national landscape, but in our religious landscape as well, calling people heathens and apostates, not full people. It comes down to worthiness. Who is worthy and who is not? If you're worthy, you're in. If you're not worthy, you're out. And at the heart of the O&A movement in the UCC, the heart of that movement is that we are all worthy. I've always struggled just a bit to be perfectly truthful. That we've had to describe ourselves as open and affirming, as opposed to what? Closed and hostile? Isn't the very heart of the gospel open and affirming? Do you know that I just found out this week that each denomination has a different way of describing being open and affirming? The Presbyterians call it more light. The Methodists call it reconciling. Until just last week, there was not one reconciling Methodist congregation on the peninsula. Now, before we jump to judgment, which is easy to do, I want to let you know that less than 1/3 of the United Church of Christ churches around our nation are open and affirming. Less than 1/3. And we are, by far, the most progressive mainline denomination in the United States. Why aren't those churches open and affirming? because of Scripture, because of tradition. Some people are not deemed worthy to be full participants in the life of the church. Now hear me. Good people read Scripture in different ways and come out with different views. It could be social discomfort. It could be theological differences. Many LGD people, until recently, have not been full people, not allowed to marry. People didn't want us living in sin, but wouldn't allow us to get married. A man's lover of 40 years is dying in the hospital, and he is not allowed to see him because only family is allowed in. Jesus touches the man a second time, and the man looked intently, and then he saw everything clearly. He looked intently at people. Because when we look intently, we see the souls of people, the profound humanity of a person beyond any socially constructed identity that we place on ourselves or that we place on others. Open means welcome. Affirming means I see you. I honor you. You are part of me. You needn't be like me to be part of me. In fact, I don't even need to understand you. But I do need to listen and love. We still have a long way to go, dear friends, don't we? And you know what? I have a long way to go. The extravagant welcome that I offer is authentic. It is in my bones. But I have fallen short on being affirming. My eyes were opened. I looked intently, and I saw differently this week.